friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here today for another video in my 5 ways to save series, and I'll be linking to that full playlist in the description box down below so that you can see all the other videos in there. I'm up to quite a few videos now, and today is 5 ways to save on baby care. But first I want to show you what I have sitting here, and why it's sitting here is I just completed this Afghan for my granddaughter that's going to be born real soon, like any day. In fact, by the time this video publishes, she will have already come into this world. But anyway, I've made this Afghan before. When I saw the pattern for this many years ago, it was the whole reason I got into crocheting, because I fell in love with the looks of it. So this is just a very downsized version of the full Afghan, and I really been wanting to make it again, so I had the perfect excuse to do so, and I wasn't sure what else to do for her because she's got lots of grandparents around here and she's going to have all kinds of cute clothes. By the way, learning how to crochet and sew will save you a lot of money in baby care, but that wasn't really one of the points I was going to cover today. So on to the list. Point number 1 is probably going to be one most people will think about when it comes to saving money, because this will save you a ton of money, and that is cloth diapers. Even before my first son was born, I knew I was going to go cloth diapers because I knew I could handle it, and I liked the fact that I could save a lot of money. And I know there was a point somewhere where I tallied up how much money I had saved in going with cloth diapers over disposables, and that was including the electricity and soap and stuff to wash them myself. And it was quite a few $1,000s. I just don't remember what it was because that was a very long time ago. I tallied that up. And back then, I hadn't thought of just making my own diapers. You could easily make your own cloth diapers. I mean, I was just buying those squares, the what they called the pre-folded ones, or the ones I like best, where they had a thicker center. I don't even think you can find those anymore, but you had to use diaper pins back then. Now they have all these great patterns and ways that you can make your own, and even put like a PUL lining on the outside so they're waterproof, because the plastic pants I know they were selling when my kids were babies, they would wear out so fast, and I would always have to replace them. And by the way, I even counted in that cost as well. In fact, I'll show you real quick. Even though I haven't made baby diapers yet, I did make, when Luna, Cody's sister, she was living here quite a lot of the time. Well, when she was going into heat, I did make a couple of diapers for her. And I made them so they just Velcroed like this, because I didn't have to worry about her growing into them, because it was just made for her. And she wasn't going to get any bigger. So I just had her wear these in her first couple of heats and before we had her fixed. But you can see right here, I had a hole for the tail. So on her, it would have been like this and then Velcroed back here. Well, I decided to fill in that hole by simply putting another piece of PUL over it, because there was one time when Jace was here and Mom forgot to make sure his diaper bag was full. And so I just went ahead and converted the 2 of these that I made into baby diapers, and they happen to fit him perfectly. And then I also made liners like this to help soak up any excess liquid, and so that worked as an emergency backup. So I still have those. I just converted them into human diapers, but unfortunately I'm not sure if they would fit him now because he's grown so much since then. Just get some real thick material, layers of flannel and your PUL, and then I just use elastic, a nice soft elastic up here to hold everything in and around the legs like that, so things don't come rolling out, if you know what I mean. And then however you want to Velcro it. But there's a lot of patterns you can find out there that use snaps as well, and you can make them or even buy them already pre-made, where they have a whole series of snaps so they're adjustable to fit newborns clear up until toddler age. So that would actually be the best way to go, because you could get them to last through that whole period and not have to keep getting new sizes for them. So anyway, cloth diapers is #1 way you're going to save money in baby care, because disposable diapers cost a lot of money, and then you have to pay to have them disposed of as well. Now, some other ideas, and I have a video on this I did recently, is learning how to make your own baby care products. So that can be making your own homemade soap that you use to wash the baby. Homemade soap is going to be the best way to go. And rather than buying that stuff in the stores that, yeah, maybe it's going to be easier on their eyes if you get it in there, but as parents, we should know, and grandparents, we should know how to keep soap out of the baby's eyes in the first place. But you can use your homemade soap, which is going to be so much better for the baby's skin than anything with all the additives in it. And you can wash their hair and their whole body with it. And you can make that in a liquid soap form if you want. Another soap that I really like and I used on Jace is the Dr. Jacobs soap that I love it. I like it better than Dr. Bronner's personally, and I always have a link to Dr. Jacobs down below. But it's concentrated, so just like with Dr. Bronner's, you would dilute it down to use it. But anyway, making your own baby products, the soap, the diaper cream, so I'll put the recipe I have. It's actually several different recipes I compiled into one video so that you can tailor it to suit you. Some of them, they were based on different recipes I gathered online and then put the different ratios to that. So I'll link to that video down below. It's easy to do. You know what's going into it, and you can tailor it to suit your child or your grandchild. And then, of course, another obvious one is like when you're talking things like walkers and strollers and just baby toys in general, even car seats, if they're up to date enough, you can find these secondhand for a really good price. In fact, our local, even though we're just a small remote town, we have a place called the Caring Place that they do auctions and stuff. And full-size Afghans I've made like this, I've often donated to their auctions to help them raise money, because what they do is they help young mothers, especially those in need. Sometimes they're new things, sometimes they're old things that people have donated, like cribs, car seats, clothing, and much, much more. They will lend those out to whoever needs it. They kind of go off the assumption they'll probably never get it back, even though they ask when you're done, just return it back to us so that we can pass it on to someone else. So I know the Caring Place, I think it might go, they might have other names in other places, but I know it's pretty broad spread. I just know here it used to be called the Crisis Pregnancy Center, but they changed the name to the Caring Place because it isn't just about pregnancy, it's about helping young moms with their babies and giving them the things they need, especially if they're financially tight and they can't afford these things. So you can look at places like this, but garage sales and so on. In fact, we have a walker sitting over here that Jackson I use that a lot for him, and I use it sometimes for Jace. My daughter-in-law, Kayla, Jackson's mom, she found it just sitting alongside the road with a free sign on it, along with a little walker, the kind that a toddler can walk along with, and makes all kinds of music and stuff, and the kids love this stuff. And so she found them for free, and since she didn't need it over at her place because she already had those things, she picked them up so I could have them here for the babies, and I really appreciated that. So, and then especially nowadays, I know when my kids were babies, it was hard to find cute boy clothes at garage sales. But nowadays, I know you can find tons of cute baby clothes, boys and girls, at garage sales that are hardly even worn. So secondhand is really the way to go. And if you don't like going out and going garage sailing, yard sailing, and so on, you can look for these things online. So if you're on Facebook Market is a good resource to find things close to you. There's always people trying to get rid of stuff. Sometimes people are just giving things away, and sometimes they're just asking just really low prices for it. So don't forget to look in these kind of places first to get the items that you need that will really save you money, especially when you're talking about big ticket items like cribs and more. And then the fifth point I have on here is when it comes to healthcare. I know, especially if you're a new mom, I know how it is with that firstborn child, is every time even the smallest thing goes wrong, you freak out, and you feel like you got to run him to the doctor over everything. And I understand, I did the same thing. But one thing I highly recommend, and I should have brought it in here, but having on hand is some kind of book of home remedies. I have a couple of them, and then I also have a big medical guide. So even though right now we can get on internet and look stuff up and do the research ourselves, I still highly recommend having some kind of book on hand that's going to give you the information you need to help with your child and help you to be able to kind of evaluate, are they just colicky? Do they have an ear infection? And so on and so forth. And I did that because I could not afford, back when our children were really young, we did not have health insurance, and we weren't making very much money. And I couldn't afford to run my kids to the doctor every time they had a sniffle or a sneeze. And then eventually, of course, I learned it was totally unnecessary to run them to the doctor every time they had the slightest fever or whatever. And I learned how to take care of my children myself. There was one time my oldest son that he got really sick, and I knew what was going on had to be much more serious. I had my medical guide. I researched all his symptoms until I became certain I knew what it was, but I still needed to take him into the doctor. So there's, it's still important. And a lot of times you still got to get a checkup so I could know for sure what it was and then take care of it. And that was when he got giardia from swimming in a lake that tends to have a lot of duck poop in it. So he probably swallowed some water, ended up with giardia. He was only 5 years old. And I had already assessed what it was. So all I had to do was take him in there and then, take in a stool sample, which was really fun. And sure enough, that's what it was. And then the doctor was able to get him on a medication that would kill the parasite. If I were to do that all over again, and I know that I would recognize it right away because it is kind of unique, that I know that there's some antiparasitics I would use. I'd start with diatomaceous earth. And if I felt like I still couldn't get a hold of the problem, I would take them to the doctor and then get the proper medication to get rid of the giardia. But even more than that, there's just, ear infections and stuff. These are natural things your children are going to have to deal with from time to time. It's just a part of growing up. Colds and flus and so on, and learning how to deal with it on your own. You can save yourself a lot of money and be a lot more healthier in the long run by dealing with it yourself. Obviously, very serious things. I'm not going to tell people don't go to the doctor and don't get a checkup, but I wouldn't also assume that you need to put them immediately on whatever kind of medication the doctor is handing out, because I know at least when my kids were young, doctors were wanting to hand out antibiotics for every tiny little thing, no matter what it was, creating then an antibiotic dependency, which is why I believe we have, MRSA and other types of antibiotic resistant bacterial infections going on. And you have to remember that back in the day, parents just knew these things, and this was information that was passed down to each generation until everybody became so dependent on just running their kid to the doctor for every little sniffle. There was, think about the Great Depression. People could not afford to run their child to the doctor for everything. They had to learn to deal with things on their own. A lot of it's really just common sense. And so we need to get back to that and learn about how to incorporate herbs and what's safe for your child and what's not. What I'm also going to do is link to the video I did on how to do your own research, which will apply to when you're trying to look up herbs, or what kind of herbs are going to be good for this, or is this going to be safe for your child? Can you take this if you have this allergy, or if you're on this kind of medication, and so on. So I did a pretty thorough video explaining that, so that should help kind of give you an idea where to look and how to look. But again, I do recommend getting the doctor's book of home remedies. I'll link to that down below, as well as the medical guide that I have, which can be very helpful. Mine is actually from the, I think, late 80s. They might have a more updated one, and if I find that one, I'll put it down below. But that one has been great, and it's really, I was able to take care of some pretty serious situations because I had that medical guide. And again, if you feel the need, if you really need to take your child to the doctor, you do what is best for you and your child and for your own peace of mind, if nothing else. I'm just trying to give you some ideas that can help save you a lot of money in the long run. All right, any other thoughts, ideas, suggestions you would like to give to grandparents and parents who have babies and little ones, and you're trying to find ways to save money? Please put those in comments down below so everybody can learn, so people can learn from you as well. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.